Ketamine use is growing, and with it, concerns about health, well-being and recovery. At Inspire, we're here to support anyone who's struggling with practical advice, harm reduction and real stories from people who've been there. This is the Ketamine Response Toolkit, a resource for individuals, families and professionals to make that first step feel a little easier. Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and today I'm joined by Shannade, one of our nurse prescribers here at Inspire. We're going to be talking about ketamine use, some of the risks that come with it, and most importantly, harm reduction. Practical steps people can take to stay safer. So thanks very much, Shannade, for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Ben. How are you?
Oh, great. All right, okay. So just to start us off then, could you just tell us a little bit about your role at Inspire and sort of why you have a particular interest in ketamine use?
Yeah, of course. So I'm one of the medical prescribers. I'm a nurse. And what I do is I assess people that come into the service around the substance misuse. I do have a particular interest in ketamine. I feel really passionate around the education around ketamine because I think it's very much a big thing at the moment, and a lot of young people are entering the ketamine journey and they don't really know about the extent and the damage that this drug causes. I'm actually frightened about the harm this drug causes, and I'm passionate about getting it out there, educating people around it and the problems it causes for people that go on that addiction journey. So I'm really interested in putting that out there.
Yeah, and I know I've got a question here that says, what does your day-to-day look like in terms of working with people who use ketamine? I suppose it's not day-to-day that you will be working with ketamine use, but when you do interact with people who are the substance is ketamine, what does that sort of look like in your respect?
So they'll come into my clinic and we'll sit down and we'll have it's an assessment, but actually it's a conversation around people's lives, where they are with the journey in ketamine, how that started. We'll go through different aspects of life, how they are socially, how they are physically, how the mental well-being is, whether they're employed and what the struggles, what triggers are, and just generally around how ketamine is affecting their life. So we have a good in-depth conversation around that. We look at support mechanisms, where they are, the family dynamics, if they have partners. We look at what they want from us, what support, what do they see themselves, their journey being like through their recovery. Do they want to go to detox? Do they want to go to rehabilitation? So it's very much individualised holistic care. So there's conversations, the directions that my day takes is based on my clients at that time, if they need support from social services and other agencies, if they need a referral to urology. All these steps can be done and supported for the clients. But everybody's different because it's unique, individualised care. So each day can be different, Ben, depending on what the needs of our clients are.
Yeah, and would they see you on the first day that they come?
Normally, they'll have a triage by one of our team here at Inspire. Then they'll be booked in to see one of our nurses. They'll do a health assessment. So there's lots of questions, gathering of information, and looking at the severity and where they're at with their journey with ketamine. Sure. Depending on that, they're booked in quite soon to see myself or one of my colleagues that I work with, and that'll take place. And based on the outcome of that assessment, what then happens, whether the treatment needs expediting, or my job is to assess the needs of the client and where we take it from there and assess the suitability for detox. And that often encompasses having bloods taken, looking at any other referrals with the multidisciplinary teams. So it's very much individualised, but you see me quite soon in the journey when you come into the Inspire.
To sort of capture that sort of journey for the service user coming in, just give them sort of an idea. Okay, and so people might not realise ketamine started out as medicine. Can you explain a bit about that background, and is it ever safe when people use it recreationally?
So it is used in medicine. It's used as an anaesthetic drug. So an example of that is, say somebody comes in and they've got a really nasty fracture to their ankle and it needs instant care. It needs to be fixed really quickly, and you haven't got time to prep to go to theatre and have a controlled operation. It's used in emergency situations to sedate somebody so they can fix things very quickly, like open fractures and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a short-acting sedative, so it's quite quick. It's safe when it's used in a medical situation where there's monitoring and there's medical supervision. It also can be used as a painkiller when other painkillers haven't worked effectively, again, in a medical setting. It then becomes used recreationally, and it's never safe recreationally, Ben. It never is. And I think that's the misconception, that it's not like a class A drug like heroin and things like that. So it's that misconception it's a safe, hallucinogenic trick drug, and that is actually not the case.
Why is the risk different then between medical use and street recreational use? Is it just the environment that they're in?
Yes, it's the environment as well, because when you have it in a medical setting, there's that observational period. People, you can monitor the heart rate, the sedation level, and it's given in milligrams, in microdoses. When people take it recreationally, it's used in grams, so it's much more higher dosage that's used recreationally, and there's other risk factors associated with that we'll probably get onto.
Sure, yeah. Well, talking about risks then, so what are the main risks then you're aware of for ketamine users?
So the main risks, I think I'll identify the top 3 risks about ketamine. So the ketamine is when you're using it recreationally, but you're mixing it with other substances. So if you're using it with alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. Mix that with a traditional anaesthetic that has a sedative component, you're at high risk of overdose and heavy sedation, which can kind of result in respiratory depression. What that means is it can slow your central nervous system down, and it slows down your breathing, and you're actually at risk of having a respiratory arrest. What that means is you can stop breathing with a heavy sedation. It's risky, really risky stuff. Also, if it's mixed with benzodiazepines like diazepam, often referred to as street bullies and things like that, again, they're the same. They're a respiratory depressant. If you have a cocktail and you mix that with ketamine, again, that can result in life-changing conditions. You know, we have evidence of people that have been unconscious for like a long period of time, 12 hours, that have been found in a field by ambulances and things like that. It's real, Ben. It really is real, and it's frightening what can happen. I mean, on the last point, thirdly, sharing the things that you use to take ketamine. So sharing straws to sniff ketamine and rolled up notes. There's a high risk of bloodborne viruses being transmitted, like hepatitis, HIV. So these are all massive risks that people don't often think. So when you're having a sniff of it, when you're out with your mates or in a pub or in a club at a festival, and you're sharing snorts, like straws, and you're having a snort of it, if anybody's got a cut in the nose, there's that risk of that transfer of bloodborne viruses as well. So that's really important to bear that in mind as well.
But what about the mental health impacts and social impacts?
So the mental health impacts of ketamine is it causes a lot of low mood. So as you're coming down off the drug, because it's a dissociative drug, so it's used to disassociate yourself from your life, your current state of mind. It has that hallucinogenic effect. When you're under the influence, you're not having to deal with those things that maybe get you down, or life's challenges, or your mood, or things that you can find stressful in life and everyday problems. So when you are coming down of that, or you're not under the influence, it can have a real effect on your low mood. It can cause depression. It also causes difficulty with concentration. So that can cause problems at work. So if you are working and you're not able to concentrate and focus because of the ketamine, it causes a lot of problems with work life, or if you're at college, university, or even at school. It causes problems around that functional part of your brain. So you're not able to engage in what you would normally engage in. So it can have a massive effect on your mental well-being, lots of low mood. In some cases, it can be really quite severe and cause suicidal ideations, make you feel like you want to end your life. Often that's when you're in kind of the depths of deep addiction and you're using daily. So it can have a massive effect. But there is places out there and people to support you in that. We can also link with mental health services and refer you into appropriate people and offer that wraparound support and get you into people that can support you with your mental well-being.
Good.
From a social point, then, it can cause a lot of social isolation. I know when the start of a ketamine journey is often at festivals or with your friends when you're out associated with that socialising. But actually, when you get into further addiction, people then start using on their own at home. Then you don't want to go out because as the addiction progresses and you start to feel the physiological side of the addiction, so you're passing urine, so you're wanting to go to the toilet and have a wee, sometimes every hour, sometimes every half hour, your day then becomes dependent what you do around your toilet behaviours and habits. So going out shopping or going out to the pub with your friends or the cinema or even going to college becomes less appealing. And actually you can't do that anymore because you can't go to the bathroom every half hour to have a wee. So you become very socially isolated. Also, when you're at home or you're using on your own, the pain becomes quite severe because what we call ket cramps. So when you're coming down off the ketamine, you start experiencing abdominal pain, low mood. People often get in the bath to ease that pain. That is a massive risk when you're using ketamine because you're at risk of using again to sort the pain out while you're lying in the bath. There's risks associated with drowning. People go into what we call a ket hole, which is like disassociative state where you don't have any control functions of your body and you're at high risk of drowning. And this is a massive, massive risk. You're on your own at home. Nobody knows you're at home. You're spending days on your own in isolation. So these are things that I really want to bring to the forefront of people's minds. If you are in the bath, you're at home all the time, you're not around people as much as you were traditionally, you're at massive risk. So please don't use ketamine while you're in the bath. If the abdominal pain's so bad and you don't want to go to the GP, use hot water bottles on your stomach, wrap them in a nice towel and put them on to help with the pain. Take analgesia safely. Also, just to point out, because ketamine is a dissociative drug, you're at more risk of being really vulnerable to accidental injuries. So when you can cross the road on your way to college or on your way to work or your parents' house, you've got a perception of what's going on around you. When you're under the influence, you don't have that perception. Okay, so you're at risk of like tripping, breaking your ankle and things like that. Also, from a safety point of view, when you're under the influence, just being aware of your inhibitions. So when you're in social settings or you're in risky situations with other people, safe sex, using condoms, the risk of transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, just be mindful of that because when you are under the influence, your inhibitions are not there, your perceptions aren't there, you're at more risk of like sexual assaults and things like that. So just bear these in mind because these things do happen. They sound like they always think, oh, that will never happen to me. But actually we see it. So just bear that in mind. You don't have those perceptions to risks that you do when you're not under the influence. Okay. So yeah.
And I'm sure some of these things have been probably said to you in your sort of consultations, haven't they? So you're just reiterating some of this stuff that
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because this is a safe space. My consultations are a safe space. So we talk about all these things, and these things really do happen. Sexual assaults, people have ended up in the emergency department because they've had an injury while being under the influence of ketamine. So just really have that at the forefront of mind when you're going to be using.
Well, fantastic answer. In terms of harm reduction methods then, if someone is using ketamine, what are the 3 most important harm reduction methods they should keep in mind?
So again, not mixing with other substances. Don't use shared paraphernalia like straws and nuts, but also, even though ketamine might look like what it normally presents as, that doesn't mean it's not contaminated with other substances. So what we're seeing is contaminated things that are being mixed in the ketamine. So you can't see these, but they are been found in the ketamine. These are things called xylazines and nitazines. These are man-made synthetic opioids that are in a lot of illicit drugs at the minute. So you can't see these. So if you score and you have a look at the ketamine and you see it and you think, well, it doesn't look any different, that does not mean that there's no xylazines and nitazines in there. People are accidentally overdosing and being hospitalised. We have seen an increase in overdoses due to the xylazines and the nitazines. We do offer testing strips here at Inspire, so we encourage you to test your ketamine. Go low and go slow with it if you choose to use the ketamine. If it is positive for xylazines and nitazines, we do advise not to use it if it's positive for these substances. But we are seeing lots of positive tests. So even though it looks relatively safe, like what you've used historically, that's not saying that it's safe to use. So we can offer the testing strips. You can just nip in and we can provide those for you to test the ketamine.
Brilliant. Okay, so we did actually have a service user question, and we had a question from it was from one of our service users. If ketamine is chopped very finely and smelted, will it still damage my kidneys? Can they process it better?
So that's a no. No matter how much because it comes in shards. There's lots of the shards in ketamine, and no matter how fine you chop that, basically when you take ketamine, it has to be absorbed and worked and broken down through the body. So it goes through the liver, which metabolizes ketamine. The liver is responsible for breaking down lots of things, gets rid of all the toxins out the body. So as it gets broke down in the liver, it also damages the liver. People focus on the bladder because ketamine is known to really affect the bladder, which it does. Yeah. But however, it really affects the liver as well. So as it's broken down in the liver, it causes problems and causes massive, extensive liver damage. As it's broken down, it then goes into the bladder. And then this is where the harm to the bladder is caused. It causes effects to the lining of the bladder. It causes the lining to break down. It causes frequent infections in the bladder. It causes the bladder to harden and to shrink. So the ability to hold urine in the bladder is reduced. Therefore, you're passing urine more. You're often passing blood. You're at high risk of getting urine infections frequently. Okay, and ultimately it can cause incontinence where you're not able to hold your urine in, which sadly, I have clients that have to wear nappies due to this. So yes, by cutting it down, it's not going to...
young people as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, these are young people. Yeah. I see people from 18 upwards that actually have problems with the bladder and need to see by a urologist, which is a urine specialist doctor that works the urinary tract and kidneys. It causes massive effect to the kidneys. I have people that I see that have urostomy bags, which is where they can't use the bladder anymore, and they have bags on the outside of the body where the kidneys are, and they use that. That's where the urine is excreted and passed through. They have to empty those bags, which is really quite sad. And this is what people don't realise, how detrimental it is on the physical health.
Sure. Well, yeah, no, it's I keep using the word scary stuff, but it really is, especially some of the physical damage that it can do, this drug. Okay, so just as we move on to the last thing then, your sort of final thoughts. Finally, if someone's feeling like their ketamine use is getting out of control or they're worried about the impact it's having, what would you say to them about reaching out for help?
So I would say, no matter what stage your journey is with ketamine, we are here to help. Whether you're dabbling with it recreationally, occasionally with friends, and you're liking that feeling and you feel like you're wanting to use it more often, we are here. We can come and support you and meet your needs at whatever stage your journey's at. If you're at the stage where you're experiencing a lot of the physical effects that we've discussed today and that I've highlighted, and you feel fearful to go into your GP, or you're in a lot of pain in your abdomen, and you don't want to go to the emergency services, like you don't want to ring an ambulance, you don't want to go to the A&E department because there's stigma attached to it, we are here to support you, and we can support you in that. So no matter what stage you're at, we are an open door, and we will support you at that level or whatever you need at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can only reiterate that as well. But yeah, no, really, really good insight there, Shannade. So thanks very much for breaking that down and sharing such clear advice. And hopefully this is giving people watching a better understanding of the risks and the practical steps that they can take to stay safe. If you'd like to reach out for support, you can find details on our website or by contacting Inspire directly. So thanks again, Shannade. Oh.